I was halfway through editing our final scene when the group chat started blowing up. Clapperboard Theater Kids Rise Glowing Star. Evan, have you seen Serena's drop? Fire fire fire. Tanya, Serena plus Cairo equals God tier collab. Maddie, OMG, I thought she was doing the scholarship piece with Jules. Evan, guess not, LOL skull. I just sat there. Laptop open. Premiere Pro timeline paused at the freeze frame of Serena laughing, my Serena, our scene. But not anymore. There was this buzzing in my ear, like static or maybe the echo of a scream that hadn't made it out of my mouth yet. I blinked at the chat, rereading it 5, 6 times like somehow it would change. Like the words might rearrange into something reasonable. Something forgivable. Serena and I had been working on that short film for months, every lunch break, every after-school session, late nights huddled over storyboards and espresso shots. The story was personal, raw. It was ours. Except now, apparently, it wasn't. I clicked the link Evan had dropped. The screen filled with motion, Serena in a golden spotlight, her eyes shimmering with practiced vulnerability. And beside her, Cairo West, TikTok's golden boy, all jawline and casual charisma. Their video was polished, cinematic, and painfully familiar. Same story beats. Same color palette. My opening voiceover rewritten in Cairo's syrupy tone. Only my name was nowhere. I felt like I was watching a dream unravel into a nightmare I didn't sign up for. My phone buzzed again. Another message. David, are you good? I didn't answer. Instead, I scrolled down to the credits. Directed by Serena Lee and Cairo West. Written by Serena Lee. Edited by Cairo West. There it was. The final cut. Not just of the film, of us. I shoved my laptop shut and stood, knocking my chair back. My room, once filled with scripts, sticky notes, and Serena's laughter, suddenly felt like a graveyard. The silence was too loud. The betrayal was too quiet. I grabbed my hoodie and stepped outside. The cold slapped my face, but it wasn't enough to ground me. I needed movement. Air. Something that didn't feel like this gaping, invisible loss. We were supposed to submit together. That was the plan. We called it our ticket out, to get noticed, get scholarships, make something real before graduation pulled us in opposite directions. But she hadn't told me she was working with Cairo. Not once. Not a single word. No confrontation. No fight. Just silence. And now, a premiere without me. My feet carried me to the small amphitheater behind school. Our place. The stage was empty, lights off, echoing with the ghosts of scenes we used to rehearse. I sat in the front row and stared at the shadows, hoping maybe the darkness would swallow the sting. But it didn't. All I could think was. She didn't even tell me. She didn't even tell me. Later that night, the chat was flooded with reposts, reaction clips, and hashtags. Hashtag #SerkaiShorts was trending on campus. Everyone was calling it iconic. A game changer. So brave. No one mentioned me. Not even her. No text. No sorry. No explanation. I guess that's the thing with betrayal, it doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just logs off. And I guess I got the message. The worst part isn't that she left me for him. It's that she didn't even tell me. I didn't sleep that night. My phone screen stays face down on my desk, like even it's ashamed of what it showed me. The group chat is still buzzing, everyone congratulating Serena and Cairo for their brilliant collaboration and epic twist ending. A few classmates have already reposted the short film. One tagged me in their story with a confused, "Weren't you working on this too?" I don't answer. What would I even say? That I co-wrote half the damn script? That the core idea, dreams as broken mirrors, came from the last conversation I had with my dad before he passed. She knew that. She knew it. I pull my hoodie over my head and leave the house without saying a word to Mom. The morning's barely started. The streets are still wet with dew, the sun dragging itself across the sky like it's reluctant to start the day, just like me. I find myself outside the old community theater downtown. The Regal Playhouse sign is still missing the G. Has been for years. The windows are streaked with dust and old posters, one of them has my dad's face on it. A small black and white photo from a long-forgotten production of The Glass Menagerie. The corners are curling, the ink almost faded. I press my palm against the glass. This place used to feel like magic. Dad would bring me here after rehearsals, show me how to stand in the spotlight, how to own a pause, how to make an audience hold its breath. He told me once, "Jules, people don't come to the theater for answers. They come for reflection. Be a mirror they can't look away from." That's why I started writing stories. Why I chased that scholarship at Graymoor School of Digital Arts. It wasn't about likes or retweets or having my face on a thumbnail. It was about legacy. I sit on the curb outside the theater, head resting on my knees, heart somewhere between fury and heartbreak. I remember the first time Serena and I performed together, 7th grade. A dumb talent show skit. She forgot her lines mid-performance, and I jumped in with an improv line that saved the scene. She looked at me afterward, eyes sparkling, and said, "We're gonna be stars together." For a while, I believed that. But somewhere along the way, her dream got shinier. Mine just got heavier. She started watching influencers, counting views, and comparing outfits. I started collecting old playbills and studying camera angles from obscure indie films. We were chasing the same finish line but running in different shoes. Now, she's crossed the line, without me. I'm not sure what stings more, that she did it, or that I let her get close enough to do it this way. "Hey!" A voice calls out, breaking the stillness. It's Mr. Harris, the theater's janitor/volunteer manager. "Haven't seen you around in a while, Jules." I try to force a smile. "Just, passing through." He gives me a knowing look and nods toward the locked doors. "You want to go in for a few minutes?" I hesitate. Then nod. Inside, the smell hits me first, dust and varnish, and something nostalgic I can't quite name. I walk down the aisle and step onto the creaky wooden stage. The spotlight control doesn't work anymore, but I stand center stage anyway. I close my eyes and imagine an audience watching. No claps. No whispers. Just silence and breath and stillness. This is where I belong. Not in a collab reel that gets swallowed by algorithms. Not as someone's sidekick or footnote. I whisper the opening lines of my script, the one Serena and I were supposed to submit together. The one she repackaged with Cairo like it was just some trend-driven concept piece. And for the first time since the betrayal, I don't feel invisible. I feel anchored. When I step outside again, the sun's fully up. The air is lighter. I check my phone, another buzz from the group chat, another compliment for Serena. I ignore it. I open my notebook instead and start scribbling. Not for the scholarship. Not for revenge. Not even for Serena. But for Dad. And for me. The moment I stepped into the studio, I felt the air shift. It was like walking into a room where someone had just said your name, twice, but no one wanted to admit it. The space smelled like hot lights and stress. Posters of past student short films lined the corkboard walls, most of them half-tacked with curling edges. I used to feel a kind of reverence here. This place was where Serena and I had spent hours after class, editing, scripting, drinking watered-down vending machine coffee just to feel like we were doing something important. But now I just felt out of place. The usual clatter of laptops and the low hum of whispered critiques carried on like nothing had happened. Like the betrayal hadn't just unfolded in front of everyone in our group chat last night. I took the far seat near the soundboard and pulled out my journal, an old habit, one Serena used to call Jules's mood diary. I flipped it open just to have something between me and them. And then they walked in. Her laugh came first. Serena's voice was unmistakable, light, effortless, like glass catching sunlight. Behind her was Cairo, the kind of guy who always smelled expensive and smiled like he knew a secret about you. He had that ring light aura, like every moment around him was being prepped for content. I looked up only once, just enough to catch Serena glancing at me. Her smile faltered for half a second. Not enough to call it guilt, but enough to know she felt something. They sat near the main console like royalty reclaiming a throne. So, Mr. Beck said, clapping once to get everyone's attention, Serena and Cairo's shorts went viral last night. 180,000 views in 12 hours. That's impressive. Applause broke out. I didn't clap. Cairo leaned back, arms crossed like a king surveying his loyal subjects. It's really thanks to Serena's idea, he said. She wanted to remix the two lives, one lie concept. I just helped it breathe. That concept was mine. I pitched it. On a cold Tuesday. In this exact room. I could still hear my voice echoing, what if two characters lived the same life but never knew each other existed? Serena had nodded so hard I thought she'd get whiplash. It's perfect, she'd said. That's our competition piece. Now I guess it was their piece. Beck turned to me. Jules, you're quiet. Working on anything new? My heart thudded. Eyes turned toward me. Including hers. I stood. Actually, yeah. I've been working on something solo. That caught even Cairo's smug attention. I'd like to do a cold monologue, I said. Original. Right now. No backing track. Beck raised an eyebrow. Go ahead. I walked to the front, stomach in knots, hands ice cold but steady. Then I looked up. And I spoke. There's a thing that happens in the middle of the night. When you're alone with your breath and your mistakes. When someone's voice lives in your head like a song you didn't ask for. And all you can do is wish it would stop playing. You gave someone the blueprint to your world. And they built someone else's castle with it. But you learned to build again. Without the blueprint. Without them. Silence followed. Heavy. Still. Then, slow, genuine applause. David clapped first. Then Beck. Then the rest of the class. Cairo didn't clap. Serena did, hesitantly, like it hurt her palms. I nodded once and sat back down, not even looking her way. My hands were still shaking. But for the first time since that group chat message, it wasn't from pain. It was from fire. Something inside me was waking up. And it wasn't going back to sleep. I never planned on going to Evan's party. Honestly, I'd rather choke on glitter than stand around pretending everything's fine while Serena and Cairo act like they didn't burn down the future we built together. But David insisted. You can't let them dominate every space, Jules, he said, handing me a hoodie that didn't belong to me. Put this on, blend in, drink someone's lame soda, and remind them you still exist. So I went. The moment I stepped into Evan's backyard, thick with neon string lights and the scent of too much body spray, I felt it. The vibration. That hyper-awareness that tells you you've entered hostile territory. People were dancing under the gazebo, someone was burning marshmallows too early, and speakers were blasting some overplayed remix. But none of that mattered, because 10 steps in, I saw her. Serena. In a backless silver top that shimmered like a dare. She was mid-laugh, head tilted back, Cairo right beside her, sipping a blue Solo cup like he invented charisma. Their shoulders brushed like magnets pulled by shared secrets. She hadn't seen me yet. Good. I slid past a group of juniors reenacting a TikTok challenge and made a beeline for the drink table. David caught up a minute later, offering me a can of soda like a peace offering. "You okay?" he asked. "Define okay," I muttered, watching Serena through the reflection of a tin serving tray. "Do I look okay?" "You look like someone who's about to leave," he said dryly. "Stay. Exist. Take up space." I was trying. I really was. For a while, I stuck to the edge. Talked to Evan's cousin about screenwriting. Laughed too loud when David cracked a joke about Cairo's too tight jeans. I let myself exist, until Serena made that impossible. She floated through the party like she owned the air. When her eyes finally landed on me, they widened just a little. Not guilt. Not surprising. Just calculation. She walked toward me. "Jules," she said, sounding like we just bumped into each other at the mall and not in the aftermath of a nuclear betrayal. "Didn't expect to see you here." I didn't answer. My grip on the soda tightened. Her eyes darted to David. Then back to me. "How've you been?" "Rewriting," I said flatly. "It's what you do after someone steals your lines." She winced, just barely. "You know it wasn't like that." I shrugged. "No. I don't know anything anymore." "Apparently, neither do you." Then she did it, something subtle, cruel. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone, tilting it toward me. We hit 250K views. They said we might get featured on the homepage. Them. Her in Cairo. I looked at the thumbnail, her face front and center, bathed in ring light. The caption, "Rewriting the Rules, Serena Lee x Cairo West." My concept. Our title. Their fame. "Congrats," I said, voice like glass. "How many views does it take to delete a friendship?" I turned, walked off. My hands were shaking, but I didn't look back. David caught up a moment later, jaw clenched. "You wanna go?" I didn't answer. I pulled out my phone and opened Instagram. Scrolled. There it was, a new boomerang Serena had just posted, clinking glasses with Cairo, captioned, "Power Duo Energy Dizzy." I was in the background, cropped by the edge of the frame, blurred out like an afterthought. I stared at it for a full 30 seconds. Then I tapped her profile picture, hit the 3 dots, and blocked her. David didn't say anything. Just nodded. We left the party 5 minutes later, walking down Evans Street in silence, only the crunch of leaves under our shoes keeping rhythm. "Feel better?" he asked eventually. "No," I said. "But lighter." For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. I didn't plan to go. Not at first. But David wouldn't let it go. "You need to show your face again," he said, leaning against my locker like the self-appointed therapist he's become since everything blew up. "You can't let them own the room." Them. Serena. Cairo. The new It duo. I almost laughed when I saw the flyer for the open mic night at school. Celebrate youth voices. The theme? Reinvention. How poetic. Still, I stayed home until the last minute, pacing, chewing the inside of my cheek raw, trying to convince myself it didn't matter. But it did. God, it did. It mattered because Serena was there. Because Cairo would stand on that stage, smirking, pretending like he hadn't turned my world into something small and silent. Because everyone else would watch like they'd forgotten who I was before she decided I was disposable. So I showed up. The auditorium buzzed with artificial energy, cheap lights strung above the stage, a borrowed mic stand tilting slightly, and rows of folding chairs filled with classmates and teachers pretending this wasn't just a talent pecking order with better lighting. I found a seat near the back. David threw me a side glance from the second row, half proud, half relieved. Then she walked in. Serena wore all black, eyes smoky, lips glossy, like a fashion editorial had swallowed her whole. And next to her, of course, was Cairo. Perfectly styled, camera-ready, high-fiving people like he was already famous. When his name was called, the cheers were thunderous. I felt my pulse stutter. He walked on stage like he owned it. No paper in his hand. Just confidence and that insufferable grin. And when he began to speak, it hit like a slap. Some people are shadows. Not because they're small. But because they only exist when someone else shines. A pause for effect. Snaps from the crowd. Serena beamed. They talk about loyalty, while memorizing lines they never wrote. Call it friendship. I call it fear of being forgotten. Every word was a bullet aimed directly at me. My stomach twisted, rage coiling inside like smoke thickening behind my ribs. I should have walked out. But then I heard my name. Not directly, but enough. They said we'd make it together. But I stopped waiting for permission. That was our line. One we used in our script. The one we never got to finish because Serena sold it out for virality and vanity. The silence after his last word was louder than the applause. And then the host called the next performer, me. I hadn't signed up. David had. My feet moved before my brain caught up. My hands were ice. I stepped onto the stage and looked out into the sea of faces, some surprised, some whispering, some amused. Serena raised an eyebrow. Cairo smirked. I took the mic and didn't blink. Let me tell you a story. About a spotlight. That burned someone so bad. They forgot how to feel warmth. The room stilled. About a stage shared by two. Until one started rehearsing goodbyes. Behind closed doors and ring lights. A hush swept the auditorium. Even Cairo looked like he hadn't expected me to fight back. But I wasn't done. Some people only hear applause. Others listen for truth. And the silence between us? That's louder than anything you've posted. I looked at Serena. Her arms were crossed, jaw tight. But there was something else, something flickering behind her eyes. Guilt. Or maybe just discomfort. Either way, it wasn't power anymore. I finished with a breath. You didn't erase me. You just reminded me I can write my own lines. I left the mic dangling like a gauntlet and walked off stage before the clapping even started. David met me in the wings, shaking his head, grinning like I'd just punched a dragon in the face. You wrote that tonight? I looked back at the stage where Cairo now stared at the floor and Serena refused to meet anyone's gaze. No, I said. I wrote it the moment she stopped calling me her partner. And for the first time in weeks, my breath felt clean. It was 12:47 a.m. when my phone lit up. At first, I thought it was another short reel notification or some DM request I'd ignore. But then I saw the name. Serena. A call. For a second, I just stared at the screen, half expecting it to disappear. She hadn't called in weeks. Not since the betrayal, not since open mic night, not since I finally stepped into the light she never thought I'd stand in. My thumb hovered over the decline button. But curiosity is a dangerous drug, and I was still detoxing from everything she used to be to me. So I answered. Hello. There was a pause. No sound except soft breathing and what might have been wind chimes from her balcony. Then her voice, quiet. Hey. Just that. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I messed up. Just, hey, like nothing had shattered. I didn't speak. I wasn't going to make this easy. She exhaled hard, like she'd been holding her breath for days. I saw your piece the other night. At the open mic. Her voice cracked slightly. You were, really good. I didn't thank her. Another silence, heavier this time. I miss us, Jules, she said. I know things got weird, but, we used to make magic together. Remember? Of course I remembered. I remembered the attic lamp we used as a spotlight when we were 12. I remembered writing lines in the margins of homework, rehearsing scenes in stairwells, editing videos until dawn while eating instant noodles. But those memories didn't excuse what she'd done. You changed the script without me, Serena, I said quietly. You submitted it with him. You used our work to make it yours. She didn't deny it. Didn't even flinch. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said. It's just. Cairo said we needed to act fast. He has followers. Reach. You always wanted everything perfect. I thought. That I'd just sit back and applaud from the sidelines. I snapped. She went quiet again. Then, softly. You're the real artist between us. But I had to take my shot, Jules. I couldn't wait forever. There it was. The heart of it. She didn't think I moved fast enough. I didn't think I was built for this world. She'd mistaken patience for passivity. Loyalty for weakness. I'm not mad you took your shot, I said finally. I'm mad you fired it through my chest. Serena didn't respond for a long time. When she did, her voice sounded smaller. There's this influencer meetup next week. Industry people, casting scouts. You should come. As friends. We could, try again. I almost laughed. Why? I asked. So I can carry your ring light while you chase views with someone new. That's not fair, she whispered. No, Serena. What's not fair is you asking me to shrink again, just so you don't feel bad about outgrowing me. The wind chimes clinked softly through the speaker. Then she said something I wasn't expecting. I didn't outgrow you, Jules. I outpaced you. That's different. I swallowed hard. It was like talking to someone who only looked like my best friend but wasn't her anymore. Maybe it hadn't been for a long time. I'm not going, I said. You and Cairo built that scene. Let him hold the camera now. I thought you cared about our dream, she said, her voice brittle. I do, I replied. But not your version of it. And with that, I ended the call. My room was silent again, but I didn't feel alone. I felt clean. Cut off. Free. I turned off my phone, closed my eyes, and whispered the words I hadn't said out loud until now. I'm done chasing people who run faster than they feel. The morning after the call, I felt lighter. Not happy. Not healed. But lighter, like the weight of Serena's voice had finally slid off my chest. I didn't text David back right away when he asked how it went. I wasn't ready to say it out loud. Saying it would make it too final, too real. So instead, I made tea, sat at my desk, and opened my laptop. I figured I'd edit something, maybe finish that short script about the girl who builds a radio to talk to her future self. Instead, I opened Instagram. And there it was. Front and center. Pinned at the top of Serena's feed. BTS from our latest collab clapperboard collision 4 million views and counting. Couldn't have done this without Cairo West, my creative soulmate. Blackheart hashtag NextGen Voices hashtag Real Ones Only. I clicked the video. The first few clips were standard fare. Laughing between takes, Cairo adjusting Serena's camera angles, bloopers of them goofing off. But then it hit. A voiceover. Sometimes you have to let go of what holds you back. Even if it meant something once. My stomach twisted. Because I recognized the voiceover. It was my line. Not just a random phrase. My line from our unfinished script. The one I wrote in my notebook in the middle of a storm 2 years ago, when Serena and I stayed up all night dreaming of what our first feature film would sound like. She'd used it. Without asking. Without credit. Just Cairo's smug face beside her as the camera zoomed in on their fingers almost touching like some moody teen drama shot. The comments were a knife party. Power couple energy fire fire. Serena is such a visionary. This duo everyone else. Period. I scrolled until I found the worst one. So glad she ditched that other girl, what was her name again? I closed my laptop. But the damage was done. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was erased. Like I'd never existed in that story at all. Like the roots I'd planted with her had been torn up and rebranded. I stood up and walked over to my bookshelf, dragging down the dusty script folder we once shared, marked STRCTCHRS, our old project name. Inside were coffee-stained drafts, storyboard sketches, character bios with Serena's doodles in the margins. I stood there holding it all for a long time. Then I shoved the entire folder into the trash bin under my desk. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. If she could rewrite our past like that, I could write my own future. I logged out of Instagram. Opened a clean Google Doc. Typed a title at the top. Lights up, a story without her. And for the first time in months, I felt like the story was finally mine again. The acceptance email came 2 days later. Subject line, congratulations from the New York Storytellers Summer Intensive. I stared at the bolded text on my screen for a solid minute before I let myself breathe. I'd applied on a whim, during that hollow week after the open mic. David had dared me to. Stop waiting to be discovered, he said. Start applying like you already are. Now it was real. A 6-week program. In the city I'd only seen in movies, the one my dad used to call the world's biggest stage. I didn't scream or cry. I just sat there, numb and almost afraid. Like if I moved too fast, the moment might vanish. I waited until after dinner to tell my mom. She was folding laundry, humming something old and off-key. New York, she said, blinking. For 6 weeks. I nodded, handing her the letter. Her face softened when she saw the logo, the details. She sank onto the couch slowly, like the gravity had shifted. Then she looked up and smiled. Your dad would have loved this. That almost broke me. He used to act in a tiny black box theater downtown. Never made it big, but he never cared. He used to say, some people tell stories to get famous. Others do it to be remembered by the right people. I used to think Serena understood that. Now I realize she never did. David offered to drive me to the airport. He showed up in a hoodie 2 sizes too big and a playlist labeled, Big City Vibes Only. The ride was full of half-jokes and quiet affirmations. You're gonna kill it out there, he said, chewing gum like he was auditioning for a commercial. Don't forget the little people when you're all Sundance and sunglasses. I smiled, gripping the strap of my backpack tighter. I'll still text you when I need tech support. Outside the terminal, he hugged me hard. No goodbye speech. Just a low, go make something real. On the plane, I chose a window seat. I watched the suburbs blur into clouds. My phone buzzed. Serena. Heard you're going to New York. That's big. Good luck out there. I stared at the message. No heart. No emoji. No, I miss you. Just those 4 words. Good luck out there. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened Instagram and posted a photo from my window seat. A sky soaked in fading sunlight. Caption. No reruns. Only premieres. I shut off my phone, leaned back, and closed my eyes. The past had been loud. But the future? It started with silence. And I was ready to fill it with something honest, something mine. New York didn't welcome me. It devoured me. The air was thick, humid, and unapologetically alive. Horns honked even when the street was empty. Pigeons acted like they paid rent. I got lost twice just trying to find my dorm, and my suitcase lost a wheel before I even stepped onto campus. But somewhere between the chaos and the caffeine, I realized something. This was exactly what I needed. The New York Storytellers Summer Intensive wasn't glamorous. The classroom smelled like old ink and fresh ambition. The instructors were either washed-up directors or indie legends who didn't care about your follower count, only your voice. And for once, that was enough. We were a strange mix. A spoken-word poet from Detroit, a documentary nerd from Singapore, a dancer from New Jersey who only performed in masks. And then there was Anna Kim. She was soft-spoken, twitchy, and brilliant in a way that made people underestimate her, until she opened her mouth. I first saw her in a workshop about story through stillness. Everyone else tried so hard to impress. She just stood on stage, staring at an imaginary mirror, whispering 3 words. I remember you. I had chills. Not because it was loud, but because it wasn't. After class, I followed her to the vending machines. Are you always that creepy? I joked. She smiled, barely. Only when I mean it. We started talking. Slowly. She didn't ask about my past. She didn't know who Serena was. And when I told her about Lights Up, the solo project I was rewriting, she leaned forward and said. That sounds like a real thing. Not a screen thing. And that was the highest compliment anyone could give in this place. While I was rehearsing monologues, Serena was still online. I didn't check her feed obsessively, but sometimes, curiosity won. She and Cairo were still posting content, but the engagement had dipped. The comments were thinner. Repetitive. Cairo was promoting a new collaboration with a different creator. Serena's captions had lost their edge, like she didn't know who she was without a spotlight to chase. She looked tired. Or maybe that was just me seeing clearly. David sent me updates sometimes, mostly jokes. Serena posted a story about the algorithm being unfair. LOL. So tragic. You and Anna give the main character vibes. I'm calling it now, summer romance slow burn. I didn't know what to say to that last one. Anna wasn't Serena. She wasn't loud, wasn't larger than life. But when she read my script and asked, where do you show up in this? I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Scene. Week 5 of the program, I stood on a rooftop with the rest of the cohort after our late-night showcase. Everyone was laughing, hyped on performance adrenaline and warm soda. Anna sat next to me, legs dangling over the ledge. I'm not used to people clapping for me, I admitted. She glanced sideways. I am. But this time, I think they meant it. I laughed. Then I paused. Do you ever miss the person you used to be, even if they weren't good for you? Anna's answer was quiet but sharp. No. I just missed the comfort of pretending I was happy. The city buzzed below us like a heartbeat I could finally hear again. In that moment, I realized something. I didn't need Serena's applause. I didn't even need her apology. I just needed this. A place where my voice didn't have to echo to be heard. It was supposed to be just another Tuesday. I'd finished class early, headphones in, umbrella tucked under my arm as the sky threatened its usual New York drama. I took the long way back to my dorm. Past the little Korean bookstore Anna had introduced me to, past the dog park where couples in matching raincoats laughed like the world hadn't let them down yet. Then it happened. I was halfway across a crosswalk when I heard my name. Jace. The sound cut through the rain and music like a memory reactivated. I turned, and there she was. Serena. Soaking wet, no umbrella, hair a mess, mascara smudged like she hadn't slept in days. The world didn't stop. But I did. We just stood there, two ghosts watching each other breathe. She broke the silence first. I didn't know if you'd actually be here. How did you find me? David. Of course. David was always the weak link in my fortress. The walk light changed. Cars honked behind me. I didn't move. You're drenched, I said finally, because my mouth didn't know how to form. Why are you here? She laughed, an awkward, cracked version of the old Serena. Yeah. I thought I'd look dramatic. Guess it worked. Worked for what? She blinked. For you to look at me like that. I stepped aside, motioned her under my umbrella. She hesitated, then ducked beneath it. We walked in silence for a block, the space between us loud with everything we hadn't said in months. She spoke first. You stopped watching. I felt it. I had to. Why? Because every time I did, I forgot what I was trying to become. She swallowed hard. I didn't come here to ruin that. I've been trying to film this new series, and none of it feels right. Nothing lands. Because you lost your authenticity, I said. Too quickly. Too honestly. She didn't deny it. I'm sorry, Jace, she whispered. For choosing fame. For stepping on you to get there. I thought it was the only way to not be invisible again. And was it? Her eyes welled. No. It made me more invisible than ever. The rain came down harder, drumming on the umbrella like a countdown. I stopped walking. She did too. Serena, I said quietly, you came all this way for something. Say it. I came to ask if, maybe you'd want to start over. Even just as. I shook my head, gentle but firm. No. We don't go backward. She looked gutted. But I wasn't done. We were lightning in a bottle. Beautiful, chaotic, and unsustainable. But I'm not angry anymore. I'm not even bitter. I'm just, done writing our story. She looked like she wanted to protest, but didn't. Instead, she pulled out her phone, opened her notes app, and typed something. Then she showed it to me. A single line. Thank you for loving me when I didn't know how to love myself. I stared at it for a long time. Then nodded. Took a step back into the rain. And walked away. There are moments in life when the air thickens just before something big happens, like the breath the world takes before it exhales your destiny. That was tonight. My palms were sweating behind the curtain. My throat is dry. My name was already being whispered in the rows of fold-out chairs. This wasn't some gritty open mic night or a coffeehouse jam. This was the showcase, the one that could land you representation, internships, press. The kind of night Serena once said we were destined for together. But tonight, it was just me. Anna squeezed my shoulder. You've got this, Jace. I looked at her, someone who had never tried to overshadow me, manipulate me, or make me feel small so she could feel bigger. She wasn't flashy. But she showed up. Always. I'll be in the front row, she said with a grin. And then I stepped out. The lights hit me like a wall of fire. My eyes adjusted just enough to see the silhouettes of dozens of people, judges, peers, strangers with clipboards, cameras, and cold expectations. I took the mic. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid. Hi. I'm Jace. This one's called Split Screens. I spoke the poem I'd been crafting in pieces since Serena left, threaded with heartbreak, rage, growth, and the quiet triumph of choosing myself. It wasn't polished in the way Serena might have demanded. But it was mine. Lines landed. Laughter. A gasp. Someone whispered, "Damn," when I dropped the part about being someone's shadow so long I forgot my own silhouette. And when I finished, there was a beat of silence. Then the crowd rose, row by row. A standing ovation. I couldn't move. My feet were cemented to the stage. Not because I didn't believe what was happening, but because for the first time, I felt it. This was mine. Not borrowed. Not negotiated. Not stolen. Earned. Backstage, people rushed me. Compliments. Business cards. One of the reps said, "We've been watching you all semester. You're the one with a voice." Anna hugged me like she'd always known this day would come. Then someone else approached. "David." "She was watching," he said, voice low. I didn't need to ask who. "She left before the end," he added. "Couldn't stay for the applause." I nodded. She didn't need to. It wasn't for her. I found David on the rooftop of the performance hall. Same place he always retreated to after big nights. The city was alive below us. Horns blaring, lights flickering like the applause hadn't really ended. He stood at the ledge, hands in his pockets, staring at the skyline like it owed him answers. "You disappeared right after," I said, joining him. "Didn't want to get in the way of your moment," he said without looking at me. "You earned that. Every damn second of it." There was something different in his tone. Not just pride, he always had that. But something heavier. Regret, maybe. Or truth knocking at the edge of his teeth. I leaned on the rail. "You told me she left early. She couldn't handle seeing you win." That's what it looked like. Silence passed between us, held together by the hum of rooftop fans and the occasional gust of warm summer wind. Then he said it. "I knew she was using you." I turned. "What?" He finally looked at me. His eyes weren't apologetic. Just tired. Like he'd been carrying this weight for too long. "I didn't tell you earlier because I thought you needed to find it out yourself. But yeah, Serena. She never planned on climbing with you. She just wanted a ladder. You were that ladder." I felt my jaw tighten. "She told me as much once," he continued. "During finals last year. Said, Jace has raw talent but no idea how to sell it. I can make us both stars, if he just follows my lead." I swallowed hard. "You heard her say that?" He nodded. "And you didn't think to warn me?" "I did," he said quietly. "Every time I asked if she gave you space. If she let you breathe. If you felt seen. But you always made excuses for her." I turned away. My fists clenched around the cold rail. He stepped closer. "I wasn't just trying to be a good friend, Jace. I didn't say anything because I saw how much you needed her. Or thought you did. And I wasn't sure you'd hear it from me." I let the silence breathe between us. The pieces of the last year, Serena's microaggressions, her need for control, her subtle put-downs, came crashing into place. "She's the one who pushed Anna out too," I said quietly. David nodded. "Anna saw through her from day one." I laughed bitterly. "She warned me." "She did. So did I. But you had to see it in the mirror." I turned to face him again. "And now?" "Now?" David smiled faintly. "Now, you're not standing in her shadow anymore. You're burning your own path. And honestly, it's brighter than she ever expected." We stood in silence again, but this time, it wasn't heavy. Just clear. The fog was gone. I didn't write it to get closure. Not exactly. I wrote it because there were still too many things I never said out loud, too many truths I had swallowed to protect the version of you I once loved. So, I wrote it all down. Pen on paper. No edits. No rehearsals. Just, raw honesty. Dear Serena. You always loved being the loudest voice in the room. I used to think that made you fearless. Now I think maybe you were just afraid of silence, because silence meant being alone with your own reflection. There was a time I believed in us. Or maybe I believed in who I thought you were. You had the confidence I lacked, the swagger I envied, the ambition that lit up everything in its path. But I was too naive to realize that your fire burned everything it touched, including me. You didn't build me up. You used me. Not out of cruelty, at least I hope not, but out of a deep need to win. To rise. To be seen. And somewhere along the way, I stopped being your partner and became your prop. I paused, my fingers shaking. Then I kept going. It's funny, isn't it? You walked away the moment you thought I couldn't offer you more. And now that I finally can, you're nowhere to be found. But the truth is, I'm not doing this in spite of you. I'm doing it without you. And that's a difference I never understood until now. Anna forgave me. David stood by me. You vanished. Maybe that was the greatest gift. You taught me what ambition without empathy looks like. And in the process, you showed me who I never want to become. So thank you. For the pain. For the silence. For the betrayal. Without it, I might have never found my own voice. Goodbye, Serena. I hope the spotlight is everything you dreamed it would be. I folded the letter carefully, sealed it in an envelope, and tucked it into the bottom drawer of my desk. No stamp. No address. No intention of sending it. It wasn't meant for her eyes. It was meant for mine. So I could finally let go. The stage was smaller than I'd imagined. Not in size, physically, it was massive, but in fear. The fear that used to grip me, that used to whisper, "You're not enough," every time I stepped into the spotlight, was gone. The auditorium buzzed with quiet anticipation. Judges from major studios, agents from streaming platforms, producers with resumes longer than a screenplay, this was the event that could change a life. And I wasn't shaking. I adjusted the mic, glanced at the glowing timer behind the camera crew, and inhaled. Then I began. Not with flashy lines or cheap punches. But with the truth. My name is Evan. I used to believe you had to lose yourself to be seen. That got their attention. I had a friend, Serena, who taught me everything about chasing the dream. She also taught me what happens when you chase it so hard you forget who's running beside you. There was a hush now. The kind that falls when a room leans in, unsure whether it's witnessing a performance or a confession. And I let her take the lead for so long that I didn't even know I had my own voice. But tonight, I'm not performing to prove anything. I'm here to reclaim what I lost. The silence was electric. Every word I spoke next wasn't a monologue. It was a reckoning. I told them the story of our friendship, our betrayal, and how sometimes losing the people you thought were your foundation is the only way to discover your wings. When I finished, I didn't need to bow. The standing ovation said everything. Later, as I walked backstage, Anna tackled me in a hug so tight I could barely breathe. "You killed it," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "You finally let them see you." David was grinning from the wings, his thumbs up like a proud dad who didn't want to get emotional. And Serena? She was in the audience. I saw her when I walked off. She didn't clap. She didn't smile. She just stared. But for the first time, her silence didn't haunt me. Because of this rise? It had nothing to do with her anymore. I didn't need her applause. I didn't need her approval. It was enough. And I was just getting started. Uninterrupted.